She likes to try a local coffee wherever she goes, anytime she gets to an interesting place. She likes to try a cupcake in every city and hopefully tries to find one in the shape of that city. That sounds like a challenge. And she likes to see how different the faces are and how different people are wherever she travels. That sounds very interesting. Welcome to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. Morning, everyone. I'm Patricia and I work in London. I wear two hats, and I work with Unilever and CEO there, and we work with startups that want to engage in new technologies, and also that want to have different ways of looking at their clients and being able to have an expansion in different ways. One of the things that I'm particularly interested in is psychometrics. I'm sure quite a lot of you know what psychometrics are, but just to give a flavour this morning, what I'm going to do is just give a slight flavour of it. Give anybody that's already knows a bit about it, it may seem a little bit talk, but just to give you an idea of what it is. Basically, it's a way of measuring people's abilities, their personality traits, really getting an idea of people and what they're made up of in terms of their behaviour patterns. It reads like themselves, but it's still used by a majority of companies, top 100 companies, top 500 companies. It's very much embedded in the recruitment of people and trying to identify what people are interested in and what their makeups are. What do we do to measure psychometrics tests? Well, we can measure people's ability to have different ways of finding out how they work and what their abilities are in their makeup. They see how well they handle stress. That's something we all deal with in our everyday life, as you can see by the model there. Whether or not you're able to deal with intellectual demands of your jobs, of which that's changing on a very international basis and by the second virtually. And you can analyse your emotional and psychological abilities, basically analysing your different traits and how those things come about. There are different types of tests. The whole list is there. Knock yourselves out if you want to know what's on there, but basically they're all the tests. I'm sure some of you have heard of Myers-Briggs, etc. But they're different tests that will give you an idea of people's stress levels, people's different personalities in different measured ways, and they're all tried and tested and going over for well over 20 odd years really. So that's something I'm sure all of you are aware of. Different types of tests. So again, there's ability and aptitude tests. Again, a whole range of them, verbal, numeric, abstract, spatial, mechanical, a whole lot. So there, I'm sure all of you are familiar with some or all of them. So that's the kind of area that people can be looked at. Basis of these tests, a bit more general, again comes into 5 personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, all of which I'm sure you can identify with the people who manage you, the nice ones about people that goes yourself, your colleagues, all the nice ones we all like to look at in terms of ourselves, but there are some deep embedded personality traits there that are well known to all of us. Basically what I'm highlighting here, I think it's been brought out in a number of ways in all the seminars that you've probably seen in terms of heat spots and the different Eurasian ideas, is that we still are dealing with different people's personality traits, and we have a perception of what people's personalities are and how you would like to engage with them. So I'm really just giving you that as a platform in which this is how we still see people and how we engage with them. One of the things that I'd like to point out is that although we've had lots of theories and tried and tested groups of which all sorts of researchers have done over a number of years, there are 2 examples that I've been familiar with that have worked very well and I've been engaged with myself. One has been with a company who I work with who actually deal with the motor industry. And their use of psychometrics there has been very interesting from another point of view. We're all very familiar with working in new areas and looking at areas how we can improve things, but we do have still companies who have got quite established, but have still got areas of their businesses which are quite entrenched with old practices, which they want to take forward and haven't yet identified how to change those practices. With working with MIC, what they have done is again use the surveys, different routes that you can do automation, but they've used people to actually engage with those people who fear change, those people who have an aversion to change, and actually engage with them to finding out how exactly their actually working practices are, and lay on that the layer of their own personalities on top of that. And many of them, quite rightly, have said, that's not me, I'm not old-fashioned, I don't do things like that. Even younger people have said the same things, but they found actually, very accurately, that people are very entrenched in their ways of doing things. And that, in identifying those people, they've then been able to use the traits on top of that to identify how to make those changes. With the other company, which is the other example to your left, is actually using a combination of virtual reality and gamification here. Now, this has been used in the UK for dealing with very large organisations, which are, for example, the emergency services, looking at people's reactions, different types of people's reactions in emergency situations. This has also been very useful in looking at people's personalities and how different personalities react in different situations. And in this particular organisation, they in fact have a whole studio, which is rather like a virtual reality area, but it is right the size of this room, and they have in fact got organisations to take whole areas of staff or departments in, give them scenarios and see their reactions to those scenarios. On top of that, once they've done those scenarios, obviously with their permissions, they've then been able to give them new forms of reference, given them ideas as to how best they could deal with situations, and then seeing how the pattern of behaviour could be then changed, and then analyse those reactions. So that has been a very interesting way of dealing with psychometrics. On top of that, the area of gamification has also helped them identify current behaviour patterns in terms of danger or change or new technology, and put in developers, people who are our new millennials, and put them in a room and see how their ability to look at change in terms of how they do their ideas, what outside forces affect information, and see how that can then produce the new millennials that we want today. Because of course we're looking at tried and tested ideas of theories that have come before, but what we're now wanting to do, like many in this room, is to reach a new target audience, people who will be more effective to virtual reality, people who will be effective in all sorts of emotions to the new things they feel these days, even in using your mobile phone. As you are mobile, your whole body language, your whole way of interacting with the outside world very much changes your personality on a day-to-day level. So that's just sort of two examples of how it's been used in the UK and how it's been very successful. What I'd then like to do is to touch on now how these different personality traits and our perceptions can be viewed internationally. Many of us in this room come from all over the UK, all over Europe, and further afield to the United States, and we all perceive things very differently. We have the same personality traits, and we're all saying that we want to engage in new technology and evolve, but even within that perspective, our interactions can be completely different. How our settings are, how we perceive the world can be changed depending on what your environment is. So if you are from a different country, or you are from the United States, and then you come to Europe, your perception is still the same as you perceive it, but in a different environment, your personality can change. And I think it's quite useful to take that on board in terms of when you're looking at measuring people and their reactions to things. This, for example, is a map of the United States. Probably won't mean anything to anybody other than the fact that there's different innovations of different companies in different states. And this is just to highlight the differences that there are in each of the states and what things can be created in different ways. It's not unusual, you could replicate that anywhere, but again we have the perception perhaps that only certain parts of the United States create new ideas such as Silicon Valley, etc. But of course there is other parts of the United States that are just as innovative. We also can look at different types of behaviour. We also make predictions. Some of those predictions don't go as comfortably as we would like. But again, we're still asking those questions. How is it that what we have perceived to be certain types of individuals make different choices when all the measurements have been there and not quite as we predicted. When we look at Europe, a vast range of different countries there, all innovative, all different, and as you can see, each of those areas, it's just to highlight that Europe has different countries in it. Of course, we all know that, but within that, our differences are vast. Even by region, by area, by city, that is also different. And I think it's just to highlight the differences there and how we can look at the fact that there are innovators in parts of Europe that perhaps we might not have thought to engage in. Again, ourselves in the UK did exactly the same thing. We had different perceptions of people and the outcome was again different to what we thought. So again, tying that in, how are perceptions different in a platform that we have. Much of the time we engage in new technology that we think is going to be innovative from our own standpoint, from our own areas, and we collaborate with people in our own countries. But again, if you look at Asia, how many of us have engaged thoroughly with people from Asia? They're very innovative. We have a very large part there, which concludes with China. And we know that China very much has become more dominant in the way that innovation has happened, very much embracing new technology, very much embracing the things that they can do, but that now is coming towards us, and we are looking at automation, we are looking at changes in how we can interact in our personalities, but we're now going to have to interact again with a different culture, a different way of looking at how they engage, how they automate, and how their business practices all work. And that is going to be something that we do need to marry and bring together and knit together. I'll give you this particular slide because I think this just shows very much the Asian side, which is very much embracing our Western technology, very much sorts of individuals, young millennials that we're all aware of. But of course they are very puzzled because they want to engage with us. There are no problems, but they have their own cultural differences, and their own cultural differences has to be incorporated in new technology, and we have to attribute their personalities, their traits, in the way we may be looking at how we might be bringing our innovations forward. So really, it's just to give you a flavour of there are things outside our perceptions, outside the way we look at perceptions, the way we look at traits that might well be adding another layer on the way we go about our works and giving you an idea of the different personality traits that are in different countries and how that may well affect the way we work. Just as a small video at the end, I'm just going to give you an idea, just to give you a flavour, in that we have a retailer in the UK that is very seen as staid, normal, and it has come up with an advert. I'm not plugging them in particular, but it's just showing you how people can be perceived in different nationalities in a different environment.
I'm sliding up to the kitchen, whipping up to a rhythm, and the mission is cooking up something that we've been missing. Listen, you hear that sizzling, a whiff of what's in the mix. I'm fixing has got us grinning, while we're licking our lips like yum, yum, yum. We can boogie, yum, 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 and we'll be cooking all night. What's that? You want some more? Wanna be what we got in store? With a veg on the chopping board, so fresh you'll make you drop your jaw. And it's lots of course, whatever you want is yours. Casserole in the pot that'll make you body pop and not for sure. Yum, yum, yum. Sing it to me now. Yum, yum, yum. Once you hear that time out there, everything is been prepared. Wiggle for me and throw them up and mix up in the air. Whatever kitchen you fit in, whatever is on your shelf. If you dance while you're cooking, you know you're living well. Sing it. Sing it to me now. And we'll be cooking all night.
Thank you very much. I hope that gives you an idea of how we can look at things differently from a different point of view in terms of behaviour patterns and perhaps taking into psychometrics. Thank you.
Patricia, have we got some questions from the audience? Awesome. I get the first go at it then. My background is also psychology, so I'm paying very close attention to this. And to introduce myself, I'm an INTJ. You know what that means. Anybody else know what INTJ? Okay, you're also an INTJ. Anybody else? That's MBTI talk for personality geeks. A lot of the research we do in market research is cross-cultural. We look at US versus Canada or countries within Europe. Do you see these kinds of tests helping researchers understand why products work in one region versus not in another region? Is personality a good way to look at when products will work or when they'll fail?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been working with some clients in the Asian region and also areas where people don't use certain ingredients, and some ingredients they wouldn't use because of their culture, and in other areas it's not considered anything at all to be using certain ingredients, certainly in terms of poultry or meat or any of these sorts of things. So most definitely that has an impact, and also on well-being for people as well in terms of how the food's prepared, how it's taken care of, has a big impact.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That was excellent.